Welcome back. ID Studio Theater invites the Bronx community to celebrate arts and culture through BRONXWAY a Bailar and more summer programming events throughout our borough. Joining us now to share more are Sándie Luna, Executive Director at ID Studio Theater, and Tammy Rodriguez Guzman, Public Health Fellow. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. So, to start, can you tell us about ID Studio Theater and your mission?
ID Studio has been around for almost 20 years now. We're going to be celebrating our 20th year anniversary next year, something to stay tuned for. And our mission has been to empower immigrant communities through the performing arts. And what's really important in this moment about what we do is that we're at the intersection of the arts and social justice due to our mission. And so that's who we are, that's what we've been doing, and that's what we're committed more than ever to continue doing.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And you recently held a wonderful, beautiful event called BRONXWAY a Bailar at Roberto Clemente Plaza, right near where I live, actually. And I saw you both in person there. It was really nice seeing you and enjoying, the dancing and everything that happened. Can you tell us about BRONXWAY and, just about the event?
Yeah, so BRONXWAY was the first event in a series of events that we're going to have to honor Bronx culture and history. And so we partnered with Folklore Urbano and dancers Daniel Petegua and Natalia Oregoisa to have a community event. And as you saw that Saturday, it kind of turned into a community celebration where, everyone was kind of cheering each other on, and community members were embracing each other and embracing their culture, because there is a large Latinx population and Caribbean population in the South Bronx. And so we really got to embrace our roots that day.
And yes, absolutely. I think we're very conscientious during this period that this has been a very challenging year, especially for our communities. So we don't forget that it's a time to celebrate our resilience, but also honor what we've been through and find ways forward together. And I think we can't forget that the arts are part of the way forward. And we're very lucky at ID Studio Theater that we have a beautiful musical director, Pablo Mayor, who's the band leader for Folklore Urbano. And they were the ones that you were able to move your body and soul to at that last event.
They sounded amazing, and the community was like getting up, dancing and everything. And I remember hearing that the band is from like all different parts of Latin America. Like they were announcing, oh, one is from Cuba, another one is from Venezuela, another one's Puerto Rican. It's amazing, and it shows just how much of a melting pot, this community in particular is as well. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Can you also share the importance? Of course. Can you also share the importance of ID Studio Theater's dedication to supporting artists during this challenging year for arts and culture, especially?
Yeah, so I mentioned Pablo Mayor, and we also have our in-house choreographer, Daniel Petegua, who's an amazing artist and has a production company. And we have a whole community of artists that we have been supporting. And emerging, burgeoning non-professional artists from the community that we continue to train through our community building theater workshop. And I think, to us, it's really important. I've said this before, and I will continue to say it as the pandemic started to emerge and we all started to realize how serious this was. Nobody knew what was happening. And as we started to realize what this was going to mean, and in the last year, one question that we have continued to ask ourselves is, what is the role of the arts? We cannot forget the arts. It's so easy to, because we go into survival mode, especially in our communities. We are the essential workers. We are the ones in the front lines. We are the ones who are heavily impacted. And so our artists, all artists, but particularly our artists, have this really important and beautiful job, which is to interpret this reality, to make it something bigger than the moment. They're able to process what we're going through in a way that elevates everyone's humanity. And so it's really important to us to give a platform to the artists who hold the voice of this moment and who are the ones who will interpret this moment. And we will look back and really understand what we've been through them.
That was so beautifully put. Thank you for that, Sandy. And it's very true. You know, arts mean everything for our communities. And that was shown in the way that the community received this event, you know, such a beautiful event, and the way that artists and the community connected through an event like this, especially after this tumultuous year that we've all gone through.
Yeah.
So besides having events for the community and families alike, ID Studio has also had programming, especially for our youth. You know, our students are preparing to go back to school in September. They've been kind of, you know, stressed out with remote learning and locking in at home and everything like that. So can you share more about your Summer Arts Conservatory experience for our youth?
Tammy, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we did this last year as well, and the year before. We have a Summer Arts Conservatory for children to train in dance, music, and theater, the performing arts. And it's taught by our artistic director, or assistant artistic director, Nelson Celis, and director, Jamie Venegas. And last year it was virtual due to the pandemic. And so this year we've had the opportunity to open in-person programming for the students. And so it's really great to have them be able to connect with other children in their neighborhood, because it has been a year where it's difficult for children to, you know, talk with friends, hang out with friends. I don't know about you guys, but I have a younger brother. And so I do feel for them and not being able to, you know, hang out with your friends in the way that, you know, we might have been able to in our youth.
That's so true. Thank you, Tammy. Tammy, I'm also curious about your role at ID Studio Theater as a public health fellow. Can you tell me about your role and also when you started working with them?
I started last June, almost at the height of the pandemic, and during a time where, you know, we were trying to figure out what is going to happen with the arts, because we did have a lot of programming available, but as things shifted from in-person to virtual, we had to re-navigate how we were going to distribute those programmings. And so I studied public health in college, and I love being able to combine what I studied in, you know, the typical traditional public health field, and connecting that to the arts, because I think there's a real power that comes from that. And public health, you know, it deals with everything from housing to education to criminal justice, and being able to use the arts and the humanities to kind of connect that all together has been really powerful. And I see a lot of that coming to life with our community when we do these in-person events and we get to talk to people. And, you know, if something comes out of us when we're able to have these experiences together through dance and music. And so I'm really fortunate to be able to kind of create this new field of the arts and health.
That sounds like an awesome role and something I haven't heard about before. Like you said, you know, it's a new role that happened in June. So super important to be connected with the community when it comes to health and art as well. It's interesting to hear how those two are connected. So speaking of the community receiving these events, can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, how people have been feeling receiving these events and what you've been hearing out on the field, and also what your hopes are for future events in the community through ID Studio Theater?
The response has been, I still can't talk about the March event, which was our beginning of April. We were honored to be the one organization representing the Bronx during this 5-borough press conference to kick off the open culture program for New York City. But also it meant the first time that we were doing a performance outdoors and sort of gathering in community again. And I get chills every time I think about it, because, you know, I think for all immigrant groups, and particularly I am a Black Latina immigrant. I came to this country as a teenager, and arts is part of our culture. Like, we live and breathe the arts in everything that we do. It's the thing that we may not realize it, but gets us through so many moments, difficult moments in our lives, and allows us to retain a connection to where we come from. And so when we go out in our community, what we see is this recognition of people being seen for who they are and what they represent and the joy that they have inside and their culture and the value of coming together. I think as a community, something that unites us is this value in family, community, doing things together. So doing these events has been really emotional, starting back with that event, because folks literally had tears in their eyes to be back together. And we had families with children. We had neighbors that we knew and neighbors that we didn't know. And at this last event, BRONXWAY a Bailar, at Roberto Clemente Plaza, we had folks wait through the entire setup of the band, which is a 14 musician band. So it took a while, right? And they were like, what are you doing? And we're like, oh, so this is who we are. And this is what we're doing. Join us, come back. And they're like, oh no, we're just going to wait here.
Wow.
Hold on. I'm going to call so-and-so to come, right? So there's a real need for that.
Absolutely.
And so what we've seen is we felt this really strong bond to the community, and everyone feeling seen and recognized for who they are beyond the pain of this moment.
Absolutely. Before we go, Sándie, I know people are tuning in and they're like, where can I go to find out about BRONXWAY a Bailar? Invite us to your upcoming events. I know you have a few coming up.
Tammy, go for it. We have August 13th, more dancing.
Yeah, August 13th. It's a Friday, 6 p.m. at Brook Park. It's going to be BRONXWAY en Comunidad.
Gotcha. And we have the flyer right here on screen. That's August 13th at 6 p.m. at Brook Park Garden. So don't miss it at ID Studio Theater, BRONXWAY a Bailar. Thank you so much, Sándie Luna and Tammy Rodriguez Guzman, for joining us today and speaking about this amazing programming that you have going on.
Thank you. See you on the dance floor.
I will be there.
Well, that's all for our show today. I'm your host, Sonyi Lopez, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.